What is up, everybody, and welcome to yet another World of Warcraft Legion live developer Q&A. My name is Josh Allen, aka Community Manager Lore. Joining me here today to talk a little bit about his people, we have Illidan, senior game designer Jonathan LeCraft. How's it going, man?
Good. It's going well. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. Okay, so obviously we got a lot of questions to come in, and I think we should just jump right into them. The first question here comes from Samanoski, who asked, why have Demon Hunters level to 110 to unlock all of their talents instead of starting at a lower level and having the talents unlocked at 100?
Okay. Well, actually, hang on here.
May be helpful to actually be able to see something at some point during this Q&A.
Okay. So that's how a Demon Hunter sees, I guess, is not at all.
Yeah.
All right. Good question. So the reason we did that is it's twofold, really. We wanted to give you something to look forward to as you're leveling up, as we've done in the past, and just felt like a good opportunity to do it. And also, anybody who's like not going to play the pre-patch time when Demon Hunters are unlocked and just sitting at 100, it'll give them time, and actually everybody else too, to really digest each talent row, look at it and go, oh, you know what, maybe I'll try actually 2 of these because I'm going to do 2 levels each. So
right.
Yeah,
so that way you're not like you're making a new Demon Hunter and you immediately have like a whole bunch of different options, because like it'd be kind of weird, because especially some of the talents like really change how your abilities work and stuff.
Definitely.
It'd be kind of weird to be like, here's this new ability that immediately you can decide, like you haven't figured out what this base ability is yet. Now you can figure out, like, do you want to change this ability that you don't understand yet to do this other thing that you don't understand yet?
And we have a little bit of that since we do unlock the first 2 talent rows, but it's the effect is lessened.
Definitely.
But yeah, I've definitely felt that going through.
And so I guess part of this question as well is, so obviously we wanted to have that sort of progression, but why not start the Demon Hunter at a lower level, like start them at level 90 or something, have them work up to 100, and then work to 110?
Yeah, well, I mean, we did that with Death Knights.
Yeah.
And I kind of feel like, we kind of felt like that was maybe not the right call, that, you do this epic Death Knight experience and then you come into the world and you're in Outland and everybody else is, in Lich King or whatever. Yeah. And we wanted to get you into the action, into the story as soon as possible. And so that just made the most sense.
Yeah. Yeah, that was always kind of weird, I guess, like for the Death Knight. Like you start off and you're like, okay, yeah, the Lich King is attacking. We've got to go stop the Lich King. Hang on, Illidan's doing some stuff over here. Could you guys just look into that real quick?
I forgot to mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that'd be weird for the Demon Hunter. Like, the Legion, they're attacking again. Go build a garrison. That'd be a little bit odd. All right. Let's move on to the next question. This one comes from Mastis554 on Twitter, who asked, don't you fear that Demon Hunters will be weak compared to other classes in the pre-patch? So like we were just saying, they don't have all their talents available yet.
Right.
How is that going to affect their ability to compete in the pre-patch period?
Well, clearly they will be missing some power. So one of the things we did is when you level from 100 to 110, we give you this big chunk of base stats, like agility in the case. I think it's 3 or 4,000 or something. I hope that's not wildly off, but and it substantially increases your DPS. And so instead, with the Demon Hunters, we give you most of that up front.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so early, and that will allow you to that brings the power differential more in place where it should be.
Okay.
So it's not going to be perfect, but it's pretty close.
Yeah. So if we say, like, for sake of argument, like the hypothetical numbers, if every normal class, if every non-Demon Hunter class between 100 and 110 is getting like 100 of their stat per level, with Demon Hunter it's more like you get like 400 at first, and then you kind of front load that a bit.
Yes.
Ish.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it's the same total stat pool. It's just more in the beginning.
Yeah. So towards the later levels, you're getting a little bit less, but you're unlocking talents.
Yeah,
so.
and for the most part, we focused our balance at 110. So if things are a little weird during the pre-patch, then
it's only for a few weeks. Yeah. Cool. It's kind of. Pre-patch is always one of those times where everything gets a little bit crazy. It's always really exciting to be around during the pre-patch. It's like, oh man, what's going on? Okay, question here from Kadam, who asked, will Demon Hunters be fully playable in pre-Legion content with early access, or will it only be the first half of the intro experience or something else?
Well, I like this kind of question because, you get it all.
Oh.
Yeah. You can do the full starting experience. You pop out, and you can go play the game. You can start jump in and do what you're born to do, hunt and kill demons.
And there's definitely lots of demons hanging around in like Tanan Jungle as well. So
yeah, they're everywhere.
Those.
Yeah, so you can do whatever you like. The one caveat there is that you don't actually go through the Broken Shores intro, I believe.
Right, yeah.
And that's because the timelines are actually happening at the same time.
Yeah.
So
like
you
where
can still do it with another character, obviously.
Sure, yeah. But like where most of the current citizens of Azeroth are like, we gotta gear up, we gotta get ready to go fight the Legion because they're invading. Meanwhile, the Demon Hunters are like, hey, we can break out now. Let's go
woo! Spoilers.
Freedom. All right. Question from Lock Power Gaming on Twitter. Now I know absolutely everybody has been asking this question.
Oh yeah, this has got to be a hot one on everyone's mind.
This is the most important question we could possibly answer about the Demon Hunter right now.
Oh man, yeah, because I don't know how people would live without them. So yes, absolutely.
You can have Demon Hunters have access to a garrison?
Yes. Yeah, it won't be a boosted one or anything, but yeah, if you want to jump in, create a garrison, maybe start a fishing raid.
Yeah,
go for it.
Yeah, we're kind of joking around a little bit right now, but the garrison is still current content up until Legion launches. So yeah, Demon Hunters will have access to a garrison. You'll be able to go in there and do garrison stuff.
Yeah,
it'll be garrisony. Next question comes from Stebble, who asked, will Demon Hunters get a little boost in professions, or will they have to start from zero?
So going back to the Death Knight, who does actually start with a little bit of first aid. I guess we thought that was important at the time. But when we talked about it this time, we said, professions have kind of become more skill agnostic.
Right.
And on top of that, if you want to power level a profession, you can use Draenor materials the entire way for the most part.
Yeah, that's true.
If probably on almost all of them. Certainly, and I know people probably have, maybe a bank or two full of ore or leather or whatever, so they can, that'll be a really nice opportunity to power level those up. And
it's worth mentioning as well, like you said, like professions are kind of skill agnostic nowadays. So in Warlords and also in Legion, you can be at 0 skill and still craft those current new...
You can. I think the higher recipes do require more skill.
Okay.
Like if you want to get stars in them or whatnot, but you can still function and level up. So
okay, cool. Yeah, and there's certainly time with the pre-patch to, if you're really worried about professions, you can go in there and get those level. Like you say, a lot of people have a huge reagent bank right now, so definitely worth the go there. All right, next question from Lightsteel, who asked, are there any measures being taken to make sure that Demon Blades doesn't become the top DPS choice for that tier? So I guess to give a little bit of insight into what this question is asking, there's a Demon Blades talent that basically replaces your main Fury builder for Havoc.
Yeah,
and it makes it passive.
Right. That is the intention of that talent. And it's definitely kind of a weird one, right?
Right.
It's saying, hey, you don't have to use your builder anymore. In fact, we take your builder away, and it like kind of goes off in the background. So that talent is for someone who wants that play style. But since it's actually pressing less buttons and everything, we don't want the goal of that is to be the third best one in that tier, or the worst one in that tier.
Yeah.
And I don't think the tuning has always been that way on beta, and it may not even be that way now. So we're going to take one last look at that and make sure it's, it doesn't mean it's going to be worthless, but
right, yeah.
But for someone who wants that gameplay, hopefully they'll just be okay with saying, oh well, I'm going to be 1 or 2% DPS lower than everyone else, or whatever it ends up being.
And we're talking about theoretical maximums here as well.
Yes.
Like for a lot of players,
totally,
this will actually be a DPS increase to take it if you're not quite as good at keeping up with your combo build.
Yeah, like me.
Yeah, if you're a horrible casual like me and Jonathan, then it may still be the best choice for you. But that's your call at that point. Like you can pick one of the other talents and say, okay, no, I'm going to commit to improving myself and becoming better at dealing with one of these other talents, or I'm just going to take the easy option and be fine with being on that like slightly lower theoretical maximum, but still fine because that's what the talent's there for.
Yep.
Cool. Question from I don't know how to pronounce this. It's a whole bunch of consonants and a couple of vowels. Who asked, will the war glaive that drops during the demon invasion be made BOA or BOE for people that won't have a demon hunter until launch? So obviously a lot of people are playing during the pre-patch right now. Maybe don't have their actual Legion key yet. Haven't pre-purchased yet, or maybe they're waiting on a box copy or something.
Or they want to play their Demon Hunter later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually talked to Jeremy yesterday, and he said that they have hotfixed it to be BOA.
Okay, cool.
And it's on I think it's on a vendor, but regardless, you will be able to get it.
There's some way to
send it to your Demon Hunter whenever they are made.
Excellent.
So you won't miss out on that.
Sweet. That is good news.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Question here from Rakuja, who asked, Havoc survivability has been a hot topic in beta. Are there any plans to address their self-healing? Leech doesn't seem too reliable in most situations.
Okay. So, yes, we're aware of this. We're looking at that this week. We haven't made some changes on the beta for a little while because, game went live. We had some fires to put out, everything except the Demon Hunter to focus on for a little bit.
A little bit important to make sure everything's working in the actual game.
But we're looking at both that 104 defensive row, baseline blur, how that works, and also the PvP talents. Okay. So we're kind of looking at the whole spectrum. I don't actually have any hard data or promises of what we're going to do because we haven't really decided. I wish I could say something, but
it's on the radar.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's something that you're looking into. Okay,
and
cool.
One other thing to note is that we are still kind of in that... we are in that point where we can't just change abilities wholesale. Right. Because, technically, the Demon Hunter's actually... It's in the game
live.
Yeah, but
just nobody can make one yet.
Right.
Yeah.
So it'll mostly be numerical now, but for that first patch, we can we can assess it again.
That's cool. All right. Question here from Det. Similar question, but this time about Vengeance. Asking, I personally like the playstyle of Vengeance Demon Hunter, but it feels as squishy as a DPS tanking. Do you plan to do something about it?
Wow, I like that emphasis. Do you plan on doing something about that?
What, Jonathan LeCraft, what are you going to do about
What
Vengeance
are we going to
Demon
do about it? Well, I actually asked around about this one, and I got varying opinions on how squishy people thought it felt, but something we're going to just go ahead and take a second look at and see if they need tuning for this. Because again, the play style is a little different. I mean, healing in general is different. I don't know if maybe this person's comparing it to modern day tanks or like live tanks,
maybe.
Or maybe it's more of a past experience. Regardless, it's we'll take a look.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's worth comparing to how other tanks work now instead of how other tanks worked in Warlords, because there were a lot of changes.
Yeah, which is what we've been doing the whole time. It's just they might be a little bit squishier than they should be.
I appreciate that we're taking the time to make absolutely certain of it, though, because I'm kind of reminded in some ways of Brewmasters, both when Mist first launched, but as well as when Warlords first launched. A lot of people were saying there's no reason you would ever take a Brewmaster tank. They're awful. They take tons of damage. They just die. And then people started figuring out like proper timing to use guard, proper ways to use shuffle, and so on. And then all of a sudden, Brewmasters became like, we want a Brewmaster tank for all of our challenge modes because they're the best and they can live through everything. So it is very important to, and obviously some changes happened between those times, but it's still...
too. That's true. Yeah, and which is another reason why we might be a little bit cautious, but we want them to be. They should be awesome. Going into launch.
Definitely. All right. Question here comes from I'm going to say George Mihailov. I'm going to guess that's how this is supposed to be pronounced. When it's all lowercase like this, it's actually kind of difficult to really guess.
I think you did well.
Yeah. So what's the POV on the DHs from the other I feel like I should be as gangster as possible when I say this. Yo, what's the POV on the DH from the other NEs? Will the Illidari be accepted back into Night Elven society and culture? By the way, just as a side reference, I'm old, so that's why to me that's what gang. Anyway, whatever. But yeah, Demon Hunters, Night Elves, society, culture.
Yeah. So that's a complicated issue, lore wise. Lore wise. There's a lot of animosity there. They definitely some emotional baggage. There's been some imprisoning and some just general distrust between them. So that's something that we'll be, exploring throughout Legion, is how they are being accepted and how and why or not. Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a TBD.
Yeah, it's to be continued.
Yeah.
Nice. You're just going to have to play the game and find out, man. All right, next question here from Maury, who asked, how will you balance Demon Hunter mobility in comparison to other classes? Obviously, this is the class it's got a lot of mobility options. It's really able to move around, able to get away from people very easily. How do you feel about that?
Well, I actually think they're probably on par, if not even maybe a little bit less than monks right now. So
I'm actually going to interrupt you real quick and go on to this next question, which is, why are Demon Hunters, the supposed class with unmatched mobility in-game, so easily kited in PvP by any classes with a snare, root, or stun? Death Knights, the least mobile class in-game, can kite them. So basically, why are Demon Hunters so bad at moving around and they're not able to get anywhere? And anybody can lock them down and get away from them.
Well, to be fair, both of the questions are legit.
Yes,
and that this is a kind of a weakness for them. Maybe too much that they don't have any good breaks, and we have some good places where we could put them. But this is something a PvP team's been watching very closely, and that I check in with them probably more often than they'd like. And they assure me that they feel like we've got the right tuning for now, and it's just kind of, we've got a lot of play testing to do, aka let it go live and really see how it pans out. The beta is one thing which we've been getting some fantastic feedback from.
I think so I guess to kind of unpack that idea a little bit, this is a situation where this is a brand new class that when you're talking about even like a Death Knight or a monk to some extent, like people have years of experience on even those relatively newer classes.
Yep.
And obviously lots of changes are happening in 7.0 and the pre-patch and Legion as well to those other classes, but you're kind of taking your several years of knowledge of this is generally the way to play a mage, and you're applying it to those new changes, where there's no several years of knowledge of this is generally the way to play a Demon Hunter. So I think it is important to kind of say, okay, let's actually see what happens. Let's give this a couple of weeks and see what goes on there. But definitely mobility, I would say a topic we're keeping an eye on.
No, their mobility is very high.
Sweet. Unless until it's not.
Until it's not.
It's very high
until you're snared.
Yeah.
Well.
All right. Question here from Tripod Faye, who asked, the Demon Sight seems to be a hard counter to stealthed individuals. How does this function in PvP? Are rogues done for? Frowny face.
Dun, dun, dun.
I felt the need to say frowny face there for some reason.
Yeah, well, that's it's in the question.
Demon Sight, it's been on beta for a while, but a lot of people aren't really following beta super closely. Can we kind of walk through what the pros and cons of that are?
So Spectral Sight is an ability that lets you see stealth and invisible, and also allows you to see people through barriers, kind of similar to Widowmaker's sight in Overwatch. And that's any enemies, actually. And it's got a 30-second cooldown and lasts for 10 seconds. And while it's active, you're slowed down, and any attacks or any damage you take will cancel it.
Oh, okay.
So certainly when it first went in, it was just activate it whenever you want, and and attack when you want. So we've already taken measures to get it to a more balanced place, and it's definitely going to be a strong opponent for rogues.
Right.
And as someone who, a rogue is my main, and I actually intend to play Demon Hunter and Rogue this expansion. So that'll be, at least maybe I'll have a really good view from both sides.
Yeah. So knowing that about it, it actually kind of seems like Spectral Sight, like while it's obviously got a lot of uses in like general PvE, I think it actually shows like treasures around
it does.
as well.
It does also show
really
treasures,
cool.
yeah.
But like in PvP, like I'm thinking about this from an arena perspective, I kind of see it ended up working out less like I'm going to pop Spectral Sight so that I can find this rogue and kill him real quick. It's going to be something that requires a little bit more of team coordination.
Yeah.
Because the rogue, like as soon as I assume that there's like a buff or something that goes up so you can tell when the demon hunter's using Spectral Sight.
And I'm sure there'll be a mod that puts a huge like arrow on the dude when they do that.
But since they're slowed and as soon as they use any abilities, including like Fell Rush, that cancels the Spectral Sight, the rogue can just walk away. So what'll actually happen is the demon hunter will use Spectral Sight and they'll be telling their teammates he's behind that pillar, so you go over there and
no, the other pillar, the other one,
exactly. So it does seem like something that I think it's going to be really interesting to see how it turns out in PvP. It could just end up being like wait 10 seconds before you use your opener.
Yeah, maybe. I kind of also have this other thought of like, the rogue coming up to the to the uncontested flag in a battleground, and he flips on the vision and he sees like the two night elf hunters shadow melded and the rogue and the druid, and he just starts backing up.
It'd be an awesome like nope moment.
Like, you know what? No.
Demon hunters running up, Spectral Sight. There's an entire raid there, just like nope. I'm out of here. All right, let's move on. Question from Turim, who said, could demon hunters have the option of hiding their chest piece so they could show off their tattoos all the time if they want to?
Okay. Well, so we don't actually have an option to completely hide it, but if you, this morning I looked and I went and reviewed all the chest armor that we give out, and it's pretty revealing.
Okay.
Like, typically it covers up, maybe the bottom part of your torso at most, and you can see almost all of your tattoos. And since you can turn off your shoulders and your helm, you look pretty demon huntery.
Yeah, so like this is like one of the intro pieces of gear that you get.
The intro piece, actually both the intro pieces are very revealing as far as the chest is concerned.
Sweet. So definitely maybe not hide your chest piece entirely, but you will have the ability to use a fairly light chest piece so that you can see all the tattoos.
There's one in particular that's almost nothing. So
okay, cool. Obviously, for female characters, there's a little bit more than almost nothing.
Yes,
but
tastefully
worth mentioning. Just to be clear. So speaking of transmog stuff, here's a question from Kyrie who asked, "Will we ever get Illidan's Glaives as an artifact model?" Obviously, the War Glaives of Azeroth, they've been a thing for quite some time.
Yeah. Well, one thing I should mention is that we're not going to do anything to the old ones. They will remain swords, and they'll be usable by anybody who's obtained them.
Yeah. It would suck for the rogue that like raided, doing a like hardcore raiding all the way through Black Temple, all the way through Sunwell, and like, I've got these. Well, I can't use these anymore.
Right.
What's going on? I've forgotten how to use these.
Yeah, that would not have gone over well.
Yeah, no.
But I think it's a great opportunity, and we're gonna look for somewhere to put that in, where it makes sense and where we can, deliver the right level of epicness for Illidan's Glaive transforms. And I don't even know that it would be limited to just your artifact. It could just be like demon hunters, once they earn that transmog, it's just a full transmog.
Right. Okay.
So, cool. I don't know when or where or how, but this is something we've talked about already.
Nice.
So yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Definitely someday, maybe.
I'm gonna knock on wood and say in before this is the next green fire that we hear about.
No, it shouldn't be that.
All right, fine. I'm just being snarky at the moment. Here's an interesting question from Nitroso91 on Twitter, who asked, "Will the demon hunters be able to communicate cross-faction with demonic language?"
That would be hilarious if that. Actually, yes, they can.
Oh, okay then. All right.
So yeah, that's going to be something a little different. Yeah. So I don't know how that's. That's going to work out a little bit different for everybody.
Yeah.
Could be some choice words being said, or it could be like, "Hey,
I can't wait.
Hey,
I can't wait for the demon hunters that are just being used to like say, hey, tell this guy in your guild that this guy in my guild thinks he sucks at mage."
Yeah.
Could you just let him know that?
Or on the battleground. Can you just yell about this guy? Please yell about this guy.
That'll be awesome, man. The battlegrounds. That's going to be really interesting.
But only other demon hunters will be able. Yeah, so the other
true.
demon hunter will have to translate too, and so he can say whatever he or she can say whatever they want. They'd be like, "Oh, you know what this other demon hunter just said?"
What's he saying? Oh, he's saying that we should all go to farm right now.
Yeah,
that's what he's totally saying. Yeah. All right, that'll be interesting. We'll see how that works out. Next question from Ponytail, who asked, can we expect to see other races being able to become demon hunters in the future? So obviously right now it's blood elves and night elves. There's a very strong like elven sort of fantasy behind demon hunters.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's the fantasy that's been presented since forever, right? From Illidan and War 3 and all that. So no immediate plans.
Okay.
And I would even since doing just elves gave us the flexibility to do a little bit more than we normally do. You know, we got
you're talking about in terms of like customization on the characters.
we did new anims, and then we did the voiceover lines. You know,
right,
it's like they've got their own voices.
Okay.
And things like that have just I don't know. I'm not saying that makes it impossible to add another race. It does make it more difficult to keep up with them. But lore-wise and just gameplay-wise, we'll probably stick with just the elves.
Okay.
Yeah. But, cool. Never say never, right?
Yeah. Anything could happen. Maybe at some point in the future we'll have, I don't know, Knoll demon hunters. Hogger was a demon hunter. Hashtag Hogger was a demon hunter. All right. Question here.
He was.
He was, yeah.
No.
Man, if you were a low-level demon hunter and you went and fought a Hogger and died, would he be a demon hunter?
Yep.
All right. Good to know. Question from Skeraton33, who asked, after Legion, will demon hunters still have war glaives as weapon, or are they using something else like swords? So obviously during Legion, you have your artifact glaives.
Right.
And you're kind of like, no matter what, you're going to be using glaives through the whole
you're going to be
whole
glaive
expansion.
Down.
But after that, is it going to be like, all right, now we're busting out the two-handed sword demon hunters?
No. Like but they can use swords, axes, daggers, and fist weapons.
Okay.
I don't know if... I think daggers is mostly like a cosmetic. Like, yeah, they can equip them. I don't know how serious that'll ever be as a weapon for them. But, so after that, you can use all those. And then, TBD on the transform or transmog rules there. Like, if we allow swords to go into glaives and vice versa, we'll look into that. And that's a future us problem.
Yeah. Blizzard
so for right now, yeah.
Blizzard of several years from now can worry about that one. Right now we're worried about Legion. All right. Question here from Penny Rush. And this was a popular one. Who asked, is animation canceling supposed to be intended for Demon Hunter DPS to be successful? So I guess to explain that one a little bit for people who maybe aren't fully aware of what they're talking about with the animation canceling, there's been a couple of beta builds where like the best way to DPS on a Demon Hunter was to do things like make macros that automatically canceled your Fell Rush so that you could do it while standing in place, and things like that. How do we feel about that sort of thing?
Well, we are trying to prevent it as hard as we can with code and other changes, and because it's not the intended gameplay. The intended gameplay is that if you take those talents, you're adding some mobility into the fight, and obviously people want to min-max their DPS, and that's a way to do it. It's like, oh, well, if I don't have any travel time, I don't have to worry about where I go, and then then I'm just there for more attacks. It's a tough one to solve because players are very clever and very tenacious. Yeah. So if that really ends up just being completely unsolvable, we can certainly take a design approach and look at those talents and maybe replace them. Yeah. Obviously not in the immediate future, but
right. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of for Windwalker monks. For a while, it was like your biggest damaging ability, at least in PvP, was Chi Torpedo. Yeah. And you were supposed to hit it and then jump so that you don't go anywhere. Yeah. So that you get like multiple ticks on the same person.
I noticed. I noticed it doesn't do damage anymore.
Yes, exactly. So
I can even just imagine Celestalon thinking, you know what? I know how to fix this.
Yeah. So not intended. Will be solved through some means hopefully not such a hardcore mean as removing the damage from something like Fell Rush, but it could happen.
I wouldn't say remove it. Maybe minimize it and just
make it so it's not like I should push this button.
Yeah,
cool. Next question from Uruk. This was another really popular one who asked, will Demon Hunters ever be able to use their wings for actual flying where there's flying enabled? So right now, obviously, you can double jump, and then you can bring out your wings and just sort of glide through the air and just sort of get a little bit of a slow fall effect. How do we feel about the idea of actually like flapping those wings and flying around like a little demon bird?
Well, I know that's what everybody wants. So I don't know if I want to be the bad guy and say we're probably not going to do that.
Okay.
Well, we've talked about it. We've had initial conversations and don't feel that it's really the right kit for them. Even though Illidan does some flying, but it's mostly just kind of a hover. And,
he kind of jumps way up in the air and then floats there sometimes. And he's also the most powerful demon hunter.
Yeah, exactly.
I think is worth mentioning.
Sure.
Like, he's the guy.
Yeah.
Whereas the rest of it, like, they were sort of his followers as the Illidari.
Yeah. It's just, it's just going to be a lore call, honestly, more than anything, because, and then, like, how we feel it looks, and just, I would say right now the likelihood is low, but since there's so much interest, we'll probably keep discussing it.
Okay, cool. Moving on, question from DGP, talking about wings. He says, will more minor glyphs come out for demon hunters during Legion? Apparently I can't talk at the moment. Will more minor glyphs come out for demon hunters during Legion, such as a glyph to always show demon hunter wings?